Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That was not the prayer for this class, so let's do the one that we normally do for the Tuesday night class. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishwaro Gururatmeti Murthy Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranaschakshuh Shrotramato Balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastva Nirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateyo Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mai Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verse number 4 of the second chapter. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mritam. So we've been looking at the background and the explanation of this important shloka, mantra. And as you know, what it says is that if you can understand the truth about the Sakshi, which never really appears as something that you can objectify, but which is very much there all the time as you. And if you can grasp this and understand this, then you are essentially free of all issues, all problems of life, including death. Amritatvam hi vindate. You can attain immortality by just not identifying with the jiva, but as the very Sakshi, which is the originator of the jiva, which is Paramatma, which is your own Atma. And by this understanding, you develop such strength and such ability that with this knowledge, you are in fact completely released from this notion that I am a mortal person. So this is the meaning of this verse. So I would like to elaborate on this a little bit So for the purpose of looking at the truth of this verse, which has been developed so systematically by the Kena Upanishad from the very beginning, Kene Shitam Preshitam Manaha, from that question, and then culminating in Pratibodha Viditam Matam. And the essence of the Kena Upanishad actually is now complete. This is the Mahavakya, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. Okay, so that being the case, I would like to look at it in some other elaboration. And so this is an important Vedantic insight. Same issue, same concept, but in a different way. So please listen carefully. This is a complete package that I hopefully complete today in this class, the package of this elaboration. So for that, I would like to go back to two verses from Sri Rudram, verse number 7 and verse number 8. And with the help of the commentary by Swami Maheshananji, elaborate on this concept, which is directly relevant to what Kena Upanishad is trying to point out. It is not only relevant, it is really the same thing from another standpoint. So let's look at that. So the very first Anuvaka of Sri Rudram, let me put my page marker back. So this is verse number 7 and 8. Okay, so let me just actually start from the very beginning and chant for those of you that know Rudram. This will revive your memory of it. And if you don't know Rudram, then it's okay, you can just listen to it. So as you know, it says, Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Namaste Rudramanyava Utotaishave Namaha Namaste Astu Dhanvane Bahubhyam Utate Namaha. This is number 1. Mantra number 1. Yata Ishu Shivatama Shivam Babhuvate Dhanuhu Shiva Sharavyayata Vatayano Rudramridaya. Number 2. Riyate Rudra Shiva Tanura Ghora Papakashini Tayanas Tanuvashantamaya Girishanta Vichakashihi. 3. Yamishun Girishanta Haste Bibharshastave Shivan Giritritan Kurumahi Gumsif Purushan Jagat. 4. Shive Navachasat Tva Girishat Chavadamasi Yatha Nasarvamit Chakata Yakshmagum Sumana Asate. 5. Adhyavochadadi Vakta Pratamo Daivyo Bhishak Ahi Gushcha Sarva An Jambhayan Sarva Ashtuyatu Dhanya. 6. And now number 7 and 8, the one we will refer to. Asau yastamro arunauta babrusu mangalaha ye che magum rudra abhito dikshu shrita sahasrasho vaishagum heda imahe. 7. Asau yo vasarpati nilagrivo vilohitaha utainan gopa adrishan nadrishan udaharyaha utainan vishwa bhutani sadrishto midayatinaha. Number 8. So these are the verses from which we will draw certain truths and apply it to the concepts of the Vedantic insight that we have been studying as part of the Kena Upanishad. So here, really speaking, the number 8, the last one that I've done, is the one that will be relevant, directly relevant. And so before that, in number 7, it says, Asau yaha tamraha arunaha uta babruhu sumangalaha ye cha imam rudraha abhito dikshu shritaha sahasrashaha ai eva esham hida imahe. So this is a recognition of Ishwara in the form of the sun, and how important that is in our life as the very giver of light and heat and so on, which is really sustaining us, which is the very basis of life. With heat, with water, with clouds, everything. Sun is the originator as a symbol of Ishwara. We'll go into this in detail some other time. So here it says that the sun, if you watch, has three main colors. One is Arunaha. First one is Tamraha. As soon as it gets up in the morning, it has a kind of a hue called Tamraha. The second one is Arunaha, where it becomes lighter. And then in the end of the day, it becomes Babruhu. And so these are three different shades of the same. These are three aspects of the personalities of the same person, which is the sun. So here, in the next one, it says Asau. Asau means this sun, Pratyaksha sun, not imagined sun, but the one that we see. Avasarpati. Avasarpati. And this is an interesting word that I'll explain in a minute. The next one is Nilagrivaha Vilohitaha. So Nilagrivaha. So another way of looking at the sun is that it has a blue neck. A blue neck. Nilagrivaha. Grivaha means the neck, and the blueness is indicated. And then Vilohitaha. So Vilohitaha means it is bright, light colored, bright, reddish. And so here Swami Maheshananji says that by combining the Tamraha, Arunaha and Babruhu, you can say it is Vilohitaha, kind of reddish in color. So it has, the body is reddish in color, but it has a blue neck, blue spot. Just another way to look at that is that if you look at the sky as the very neck of, so the sun, the light of the sun is all over, and one aspect of that is the blue sky. So the blue color is an important one, because whenever you have infinity, blueness comes in. So if you have so the rivers are not blue because they are finite in size. But if you look at the ocean, which is infinite, very large, infinite, it's blue in color. Same thing on the sky. But anyway, that's not the relevant part. Just look upon this as a representation of a being that is white in color, fair in color, bright in color, but has a blue spot in it. This is an important aspect that we are going to look into in a few minutes. But let me go on with the rest of the verse. So we have done number 8, Asau Yaha Avasarpati. I haven't explained Avasarpati in a minute. I'll do that in a minute. Nilagrivaha Vilohitaha Uta Enam Gopa Adrishan. So this one is seen by the shepherds, the cowgirls and the cowboys that are responsible for shepherding the cows are called gopa. Standard, ordinary, wonderful, simple folks. And Atrishan Udaharya. Udaharya means the ones who carry water from the river to their village, because as you know, most of the villages don't have running water. Now are beginning to have that. And so that's why most of the villages are established near rivers and ponds. And usually the ladies carry pots of water back from the river back into their home for cooking, washing, etc. So these are called udaharya. So they also see the sun, just like the shepherds see the sun. So what is the significance of doing that? What's the significance of mentioning that? So this will now become clear. He says, they see it, but they don't understand the significance of the Nilagrivaha Vilohita. They see it, but they do not understand the person behind the sun. So this is good enough for their lives. They can have a limited life, which is useful to them. They get up in the morning when the sun comes in. The cows are untied, and there is a person that grazes them in the pastures. There's a ladies who bring water into the house. All of that work goes on during the day. But life goes on without any release. And the release will only come when they understand the person behind the sun, which is really what we are now going to see. So this is the verse, the background verse. Okay? So now, the sun representing Ishwara is sometimes serenaded as following. If you look at the Dakshina Murthy Ashtottara Shatanama Vali, 108 names of Dakshina Murthy that we started doing in Milpitas, and this is chanted both morning and evening at the various ashrams, including our ashram. Omkara Simha Sarvendraya Namaha, Omkara Omkarodhyana Kokilaya Namaha. It's like the 108 names. But the dhyana shloka for that, if you recall, we used to do this, goes as follows. Spatika Rajata Varnam Mauktakim Akshamalam Amrita Kalasha Vidyam Jnana Mudram Karagre Dadata Muraga Kaksham Chandra Chudam Trinetram Vidrita Vividabhusham Dakshina Murtamide. It's the dhyana shloka. That may I visualize Ishwara in the following way. And the very first words are Spatika Rajata Varnam. This is the important part of this whole thing. Spatika Rajata Varnam. What does that mean? Spatika means a crystal. A crystal which is very clear. And Swami Maheshananji uses the word Paradarshi. Paradarshi means that is so clear that it can take any colors close by and become that color without really changing its own varnam, which is Spatika Varnam. Spatika Varnam means the very formlessness of the crystal. It's well known that if you have a crystal and if you put a blue color flower or some object next to it, then the crystal looks blue. By itself, it doesn't have any color, but it has the ability to take on the colors of the things close to it. So this is called Spatika Rajata Varnam. So this is the epithet given to Dakshina Murthy. This is the epithet given to Atma. We will see how. Okay? Alright. So this is the background. Paradarshi, clear. It is present in all possible situations, past, future, present, but it does not take on the idiosyncrasies of anything that it is close to it. It reflects it, but without changing its own varnam, which is Spatika Varnam. This is the analogy. Okay. So now let's proceed further. If you look at light of the sun, the light by itself, and even the light of the lokas around us, like these lamps and so on, all come from the light of the sun, because the energy of the sun is the one that powers up the batteries of the various lamps that we have. It's the same thing, but just look at the light of the sun for the time being. The light of the sun has no color of its own. If it falls on a green cloth, it becomes green light. Becomes green light without changing its own Rajata Varnam, Spatika Rajata Varnam. If it goes into a blue cloth, it appears blue. It becomes blue light. Blue object, black object, white object. Variety of different colors it can take. By itself not changing anything. Okay? Same thing is true now for the Atma Jyoti, the consciousness of anyone. It's the same consciousness. That conscious Jyoti, that the awareness is the form of knowledge, jnanam. The swarupa of jnanam. Just like the sun and the sunlight are inseparable. At least in the case of the sun, it has a shape and some hydrogen being burnt, and so it has to be generated. And at one time, in fact, it will become cold. In some billions of years, it will become cold, and a new sun will come. So there is some change in the very source of the sun itself, but not in the Atma Jyoti. Not in you. You are the Atma Jyoti. So just stay with this. So the Atma Jyoti, the light of the Atma, the awareness of the Atma, by itself does not take any shapes. just like the light of the sun does not take any colors. So similarly, the Atma Jyoti also is what would be called Nirguna Nirakara. Gunarahitaha. It has no particular color to it associated with it. You cannot say that the awareness is blue in color or any particular shape. It doesn't. Nirguna Nirakaraha. Now the question becomes, it's really interesting when we look at Pratibodha Viditam Matam and we say that the Atma is behind all thoughts. That's what it is saying. Pratibodha Viditam Matam means bodham prati for any thought. You cannot have any thought of an object or a concept without the awareness creating that thought. That is behind each thought. That's what it means, pratibodha viditam matam. So you see that the thoughts that you see are particular thoughts. So you can close your eyes and I say, okay, visualize a car, an SUV, and you visualize an SUV. Visualize a bicycle, so you visualize a bicycle. So there is a bicycle thought, a bicycle form, a car form, table form, all these kinds of forms. So this is what is called Saguna Sakara. We have the Nirguna Nirakara, without any guna and without any form, that transforms itself into Saguna Sakara, with qualities and with form. The question is, how does this happen? This is really what we are looking at. So this analysis is necessary for you to identify what is happening. And with this understanding, you will not just take yourself to be a Saguna Sakara. You will take yourself to be a Nirguna Nirakara. Same phenomena happens. As the sunlight taking on the various colors of the objects that lights up. This is the beauty of the sunlight. It is pure. Spatikarajata varnam. But it has the ability. So you cannot have a green color cloth or an object seen without the original light. You cannot see it. And the original light does not change its form, but it lights up the form and becomes one of it, one with it. Same thing happens with us. The Atma Jyoti is Nirguna Nirakara. Absolutely. At least the light has some kind of a form, some kind of a color. The Atma is completely Nirguna Nirakara. Satyam Jnanam Anantam, has no limitations whatsoever. Always there. And it has the ability to turn itself into Sakara, Saguna objects. So all you have to do is to visualize the bicycle. And if you want not to visualize the bicycle thought, you actually look at a bicycle. And then you become the bicycle thought. Really what you are seeing is the bicycle thought in your mind. You are never seeing the bicycle. The bicycle cannot enter your eyes. It's too big for the eyes. What happens is that the form of the bicycle, in the form of the bicycle thought, strikes the lighted aspect of your eye, and the software measures that, compares that with what you know before, and it says this is a bicycle. This is exactly what happens. Not possible without your consciousness, your awareness. And the consciousness and the aware never really changes. See, this is a very beautiful thing to see. The light of the sun never changes, always remains the same, Spatikarajatam Varnam. But it changes in the form of the lighted objects. Okay. All right, so this is one thing. Now we come to the nature of Ishwara and the whole creation in the form of Nilagriva Vilohitaha. As I mentioned to you, that the body of Ishwara is Rajatavarnam. It is clear as a crystal, Paradarshi, but there is a blue spot in the neck of Ishwara. Now, so one of the things that happens is that from the Shruti and Smriti, which are concepts, truthful concepts, they are translated in the form of Purana stories. And the Purana stories are a method to understand the truth about Shruti and Smriti. They may not have the absolute truth per se, but they signify a truth. So this very famous story about the gods, Devas and demons, Asuras, they were both praying to Lord Shiva, to Shankara, for his blessings. You see, this is the famous story between in the Ramayana between Rama and Ravana. You probably know this, that Rama was a great devotee of Shiva, of Shankara. Ravana was even a greater devotee of Shiva. His penance was unmatched. He was a great devotee of Shiva. Same Shiva. So here is Ravana, who is a Asura, who is a demon. And you have Rama, who is also Deva, both praying to the same person. The difference is Rama gave up his ego and his jivatvam and became one with Shiva. When he was, of course, an avatara, and so even when he when he was brought up as a young boy, he had Vishwamitra as his as teacher, and whatever recognition of the self was required, he did that very early and then he became a Brahmanishta. Ravana, on the other hand, wanted to be a devotee of Shiva, but he wanted to maintain his individuality. He was doing it for power. And so the same power which released Rama became the undoing of Ravana. Because he wanted to maintain his individuality and become very powerful and be able to conquer anybody. Ultimately, his heads were all cut off. So anyway, this is the story between the Devas and Asuras. So both of them were praying to Shankara for his blessings. And I won't go into the story, but as you know, that they actually do Samudra Manthanam. So they churned the ocean. And when they did that, the first thing with the Vasuki, who is the serpent, when they did that, a great deal of poison came out. They were both looking for Amritam, immortality, nectar of immortality. But the first thing that came out was the Visham. And the Visham was the poison. And the poison was so powerful, it would have really annihilated everybody. So as the story goes, that Vishnu went to Shankara and says, "Sir, you kindly take care of it, because this is going to just annihilate my whole Shrishti." Parvati, on the other hand, was afraid that if this is such a powerful Visham, it might actually decapacitate Shankara. And so she was saying no. Shankara had made the promise to the world that I will really protect you. So he actually swallowed the Visham, but did not let it go into, he did not go into his body. He stayed it in the neck. And as a result, this Visham became his blue neck. This is the story of the Puranas. It has much more elaboration. We'll have to do it some other time. But this is essentially what it is. But behind each story, this is what is called Adi Daivam. Behind each story is the significance at a personal level, which is called Adhyatmikam. So we have Adi, the three Shantis that we have. So Adi Daivam, Adi Bhutam, and Adhyatmikam. So there is an Adhyatmikam truth to this story also, Puranic story of the green leaf. What is it? So let us look into that. And this is directly now relevant to Pratibodha Viditam Matam. So for that, we have to refer to a cultural phenomena of a Hindu household in India. And this is the cultural practice which has been passed on from families to families and families. What is that? What happens is that when a young couple gives birth to a baby, and babies are just beautiful just the way they are. Very beautiful. All babies are just beautiful. I'm very blessed recently by having a baby of our younger son. She's just turned 6 months old. And just to look at her is a delight. You look at any baby, not just my baby, my son's baby. Just babies are just so wonderful. Just to look at, whatever they have, however they look, whatever their shapes are, and so on and so forth. They look beautiful. Now, what happens is, when visitors come to visit the mother, and they look at this very beautiful baby, thought occurs to them, wow, what a beautiful baby that has happened to this lady. And behind that, there is a little tinge of jealousy, particularly if you don't have a child. Even if you had a child and it's now grown up and so on, you have a little tinge of jealousy. What happened? How could this lady friend of mine get a beautiful child like this? This is amazing. So in the northern India, this is called nazar. And we said nazar na lag jaye. Nazar na lag jaye means that and so what happens is that really speaking, all visitors, and this is why Swami Chinmanand used to say, he says that the blessings of your friends and relatives are very important, because what their thoughts are turned into karma phala. That's why the blessings of grandparents are so pure. They have no agenda whatsoever. They expect the child to be fully developed and so on. Friends, on the other hand, there is a possibility of a tinge of jealousy. They look at the whole baby from top to finish and say, wow, a complete hands and feet and so beautiful to look at. Slightly negative. Just some little bit of jealousy. How could this they do? How could this happen to this person? And I'm just exaggerating, but just giving you this idea. So the cultural phenomena is, as you know, many of you would relate to it, that the mother puts a black mark somewhere on the face of the child. This is called tika. Just the other day, just a couple of days ago, we were doing FaceTime with our new granddaughter, the 6-month-old baby. And she's got such sharp nails that she scratches herself. And so the mother keeps on cutting the nails, and it's not easy to cut the nails of a baby. And she's got very sharp nails. Even when she comes in and she caresses us, it really hurts because she actually cut herself up on the matha, on this forehead. And I was telling my granddaughter, I said, this is a natural tika that she did herself. It's because so what happens is, this is the phenomena. When you put the tika, or some mark, doesn't have to be tika right in the middle, it could be anywhere, could be in the eyes and so on. The idea is that people, instead of admiring the beautiful body of the baby, are attracted to the tika. And so it distracts them from admiring the rest of the things. The tika becomes abnormally intrusive. So people's nazar, their vision, goes to the tika, not to the entire body. Okay, so you get this picture. You're clear about it now. This is the phenomena, the cultural phenomena of the Hindus. It's possible other religious people also may have it, I don't know. But in Hindus, this is done. Very, very normal. Very normal. The mother will do something which stands out. I remember in one of my aunts in Amritsar, she would make a black mark right on top of the eyes. And people will look at it and say, what is that? And the moment they say that, you see that they are not criticizing the rest of the body. The purpose has been served. You know, it is so interesting that people are distracted by oddities more than the whole thing. A small defect attracts their attention. much more than the whole thing. Swami Maheshananji made a very beautiful point. I really admired this analogy. So he was talking about the blessing of living in the world in a samsara, a samsarika vyavahara, versus the paramarthika vyavahara. Paramarthika vyavahara means the living in the sharanagati of Ishwara, recognizing Ishwara in your life and living the life of your recognizing it and living with it and so on. So the laws of Ishwara, Atma, versus the laws of Samsara, which is Anatma. This was the analogy. He says, look at this. In the Samsara, people and the societies are much more interested in eliminating all your defects. They are particularly interested in any defects. So, for example, suppose a person has been living a wonderful life, a very dharmic life, he's never really done anything good. If he steals something once, he's put under jail. So the society does not integrate the whole life. You had thousands of opportunities not to steal and you never stole. But if you stole once, you are accused. Just the opposite to that is Ishwara's justice. You may have been a sinner, so-called sinner, for a long time. But if you do one thing very well in the helping someone, Ishwara is willing to forgive all of the previous bad karmas that you have done. You know, this was an interesting thing. I read this a few months ago somewhere in one of Swami Maheshananji's book. And it made me feel so much better, honestly. I'll tell you why. Because as a householder, I am continuously killing small bugs, spiders, ants. And both the Acharya, Swamiji, Swami Chinmayananji, Swami Dayananji, they used to say that, those are papas, no doubt about it, but forgivable papas. So many times when you are just doing chanting and you're doing prayers, please tell Ishwara that, I'm sorry, I've killed some spiders, I've killed some ants. I don't know what else to do because they are in my home. I'm not going outside and killing them. But once I'm attacked by them, then I'm doing it. So please forgive me and so on. When I have a tendency to do this. And so when I do this, I get very happy about Swami Maheshananji's pointing out. What do I do this? When there are flies in the home, I try not to kill them. If there are spiders, too many of them, I have to kill them. But once in a while, if I find a spider which is near a door, I try to take him out as much as possible. Flies I don't try to kill. And so I have this this plastic cup, and I go, my wife and the whole family, they're all familiar with this. So I just quickly put the plastic cup. Why a plastic? Because if I do that on the glass with a metal one, the glass may break. And so I do it with a plastic cup. And I don't always get it. And then once I put the plastic cup, then I have a small paper that I put in. And then I take him out. And so the other day, this is interesting, that might have happened to you. There are flies that are bred inside the home. They don't come from outside. They come in some kind of a corner. I remember a time like 3-4 years ago, then they were like dozens of flies. Finally, I had to figure out exactly what was happening. Same thing happened on a smaller level just a few days ago. We already used to get 4 or 5 flies, maybe 6 flies every day for about a week. But I tried not to kill them. I'd take them out. I felt so good about it because I have killed so many of these in the old days that Swami Maheshananji is pointing out that the Ishwara, if you save one of them consciously, you will be absolved for dozens of other ones that you may have been killed. This is the beauty about the Sharanagati of Ishwara. And so anyway, so the point is this is what I was saying, going back to the law of this society is that they focus on the oddities of your behavior. They don't look at some of the if you are accused in the court of law, and if the judge who is considerate will look at you and say, have you ever done this before? So your report will be looking better if you have never done this before. But they will not release you. No, they will still they'll put some fine if they not imprison you. So the whole world is really focused on the oddities like a tika. Forget about the whole world. We also do the same thing. We do the same thing because I am inherently free. How am I inherently free? Because the Atma Jyoti is ever present and it never takes on the form of anything. It appears to take on the form, but it is ever free. But I, instead of focusing my ever freedom, my jnanam, the inherent freedom of the knowledge, I am aware. Instead of focusing on that, I am focusing on the ajnanam, on my ignorance. I don't know myself. Hey, don't focus on I don't know myself. Focus on the fact that I know myself. In fact, Swami Maheshananji pointed this out very well. He said, you look at a tika on a child, or even the Nilagriva on Shiva, either one of them, doesn't matter. The tika and the Nilagriva, is it not on the white body, on a fair body? So the basis of the tika, the tika is an adhyaropa on top of the white body, isn't it? It's not as though you have removed that portion from the body and inserted a blue color. No, the blue color is actually on top of the white color. And so, similarly, a tika on the child, is it not on the on the otherwise flawless complexion of the child. It is sitting on top of that. Similarly, when you say, I don't know, which is a tika, which is an obstruction, don't you see that you are sitting on knowledge? You are, in fact, the fact that you don't know is also possible because you know. Beautiful. Isn't it? Think about it. You know that you don't know. You cannot have a brick to say, I don't know. A table to say, I don't know. But you and I, the living beings, it's a very funny situation. I know never leaves me. And even when I say, I don't know, I know. So the only issue is that instead of focusing on I know, I follow the cultural defect of focusing on the tika. I don't know. Here Swami Maheshananji had quoted Adi Shankara a couple of times. One time he's two things he said. Pragyanam api panditopi. Even though you've been studying for a long time, you are jnani, you are panditaha. Panditaha means, here in the true sense of it, one who knows panda. And panda is Atma Jnanam. Is the only pandita, not the normal Pandit Nehru. No. Atma Jnani alone is the pandita. And Adi Shankara says, even though the person has been studying and he knows a lot, still says, you know what, I am not very clear about the Atma. What to do? It is all because you're ignoring the overwhelming evidence of the freedom of the Atma and purely focusing on myself as a jiva. It's a defect. So that's why he says that if you look at the Gopaha and Udaharyaha, they are seeing it, but they don't understand the very function of the art of Surya, as we saw. That the various hues of the sun are just different views of it, which the same person. Ishwara never changes. Atma never changes. I didn't comment on the word avasarpati, which I promised to do. Avasarpati means the one which is slowly gliding. So the sun, so this is the word sarpa, which is the word for a snake, also comes from sarpati. Means that unlike a two-legged or a four-legged animal, the snake just glides. Similarly, the sun glides slowly. The whole world is actually gliding. Whole Jagat is slowly gliding. There's no sudden change anywhere. Anyway, avasarpati. So that was the meaning of it. But the main thing here is that an ordinary person who does not think lives in a life of mortality. But if you were to see that the basis of mortality here is a tika. You see? That the mortality is a tika on the immortality of the Atma. The immortality which is the Atma, not of the Atma. And all it takes is really appreciating the beauty of the whole thing. But what happens to us is that we are just focused on just one small thing, and we are totally involved with that. And we don't think it is that simple. It is that simple. This is what it is saying, pratibodha viditam matam. It's very simple. Swami Maheshananji also says, in fact, Adi Shankara says later, he says, Hanta sau prabalaha. He's taken a small snippet from a bigger mantra. Hanta sau prabalaha. Hanta, the word hanta means alas. It's like Adi Shankara says, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what, I'm so sorry that you cannot get it, don't get it. It is so simple, straightforward. Prabala. Prabala means that your focus on the tika is so strong that you don't look at the whole picture. And you convince yourself, no, it cannot be that easy. So here Swami Maheshananji gives a very beautiful example. He says, suppose there was a person, I don't know whether he made it up or whatever, doesn't matter. This is the kind of a story, exactly like Ramayana and Mahabharata. It doesn't matter whether it actually happened or not, but it is so representative of the truth that you might as well study it very well. Swami Dayananda used to say that this is the definition of a classic. When you say a word classic, this is a classic tale. The word classic means it does not matter whether all the characters were exactly happened or not, but the embodiment of the truth is so accurate that it is worth studying. So also this simple example that Swami Maheshananji gives. It may not actually happen, but it is so close to happening that it draws a lot of good lessons for us. So here's the story. So it appears that there was a man who was suffering from an upset stomach for a long time, years. And he went to all kinds of things, and his pain on the tummy will not go. I don't know if I told you this or not, that I actually had some symptoms of a stomach problem about 6 months ago. And I went through a lot of issues. And in fact, Dakshina Bhutta, she had given me, she was saying that she also had some, you remember I had problems with my voice. I still have a little bit, but not nearly as much as it. And so she said she had the same thing, and it was acid reflux. So I went through acid reflux, nothing was happening. All kinds of things were, this went on for 3 or 4 months. Even before I tell you the story, I think I have a couple of minutes so I can relate to you my personal thing. Do you know what happened to me? There was a new doctor that prescribed a medicine for my lowering of the blood sugar, which was very strong. In fact, you probably see it advertised on television. It's called Trulicity. And you have to inject it to your tummy. And I did that for like 2-3 months. All of a sudden one day, it occurred to me, not to any of the doctors, that my stomach pain and all the other symptoms was happening at the same time when I started taking this medicine. So I actually Googled this. And the best way to go to that is the Mayo Clinic. My friends have also told me, I have a doctor friend, he says that's the most trustworthy place because the other ones are all biased. They will lie through their teeth sometimes. Mayo Clinic does not. It's a very authentic site. And others are too, but Mayo Clinic is also very good. So I went to the Mayo Clinic. They had 11 contraindications of side effects after this Trulicity. I had 4 of them, including constant stomach ache, regurgitation, loss of clarity of... I said, oh my God. It was a very expensive medicine. It's like $375 a quarter. And I was upset about that anyway. I called up my doctor and said, I am not taking this from day one. She says, no, I think we should continue. I don't see it. I said, I am telling you, my intuition tells me this is a smoking gun. I stopped taking it. After 1 week, I was 10% better. After 2 weeks, I was 20% better. It took me like a month. Gone. Anyway, this is just a personal story. But anyway, so the story that Swami Maheshananji tells is this. So listen to this carefully. It's very relevant to you. So this is your story. Okay? There was a man who suffered from this kind of a stomach ailment for years. Nothing was really helping him. And he had money, and so people said, oh, you have to go to England. And there are some doctors there, just like you go to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, New York. You can go from India to UK, and they have absolutely the... So he went to that. They prescribed some medicine. Nothing was helping. The guy was miserable, absolutely miserable. He didn't know his life was ebbing away, and he had stomach ache all the time. Then an Ayurvedic doctor he visited an Ayurvedic doctor at the very end. The Ayurvedic doctor says, this is very simple. I think I understand exactly your symptom. And here's what you do. He says you go to the shop and get some molasses and put some mulati and some normal things. He didn't even have a medicine for that. He says you mix up these 4 things and you do it. So he was about to give him this understanding when a friend of his who had taken him to the doctor stopped him and said, sir, can I just tell you something? This guy will not do what you are telling me. He has no faith in these simple remedies of Ayurveda. Something elaborate has to be given to him. So he says, I have a scheme. You tell me what all these ingredients are, and I am going to mix them up and put them in some capsules. And I'm going to tell him that this has been a new discovery in Russia. and there is a friend of mine who's coming back from Moscow, and he can carry this for me. I'm sure you're going to be cured. He says, if I do this, he will agree to it. But if you tell him just go to the normal grocery store and buy this, he's not going to do it. Swami Maheshananji, see, that's exactly what happened. He told his friend, he says, there is a new medicine that has come in Russia. It's only available, it's not even available in the West. And it so happens I have a friend coming. I've requested him. We've gotten all the clearances from the customs people. And I've got a vial of about 20 of these. And if you take this every day, you're going to be okay. And he was okay. He started taking it, and within a week he was okay. Now, here's the lesson for you. If we tell you pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mritam, you're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me. He said, what? And this is exactly what happens. I still got questions from you. There's a couple of your students, he'll say, no, but this is, so what? What does it do for me? It means you're not accepting it. You're not investigating what it is. You're not taking it in. And we know this in Vedanta. So you know what we do? We'll say, no, this is not that easy. We know that you are saying it's not that easy. So now we say, do some tapas. Then do amavasya, don't eat anything. So build up a certain strength. And do some yajna. Go to the local temple of a priest that has some very good, and do some yajna. Do some charitable work, dhanam. And then also study sadasad viveka. And slowly start removing your raga dvesha. So you have certain vairagya, which is not going to happen all of a sudden. You have to eat one thing at a time. And also do some pranayama. And also do mano nigraha. Just do some meditation. Don't let thoughts come in. And take your mala and just start doing some Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, you do all of this. And you feel, my gosh, I'm really getting better. And then you go do finer and finer meditation. Upasana. Chitta ekagrata. There are so many of them. Then you will see that you are the very Sakshi. This appeals to you. Yeah, gosh, I've done so much. I've done this. Is exactly like bringing a medicine from Russia. If I just give you something very simple, you will say, oh, this doesn't make any sense. How can you say pratibodha viditam matam? And why don't you understand it? Because you are just focused on the ajnanam, which is just like a nilagrivam, instead of the vilohitam. Here's the situation. So, Atma Jyoti is there. This should impress us. It is not generated, it is there always. You cannot even eliminate it. But I am just focused on, I don't know. Hey, don't you see that you know that you don't know? And the fact that you know is there always. What you don't know comes and goes. So this couple of mantras from Rudram I thought were very relevant to this section of the Kena Upanishad, and I thought I would just devote the entire set of these verses from the Rudram. Asau yas tamra arunauta babrusu mangalaha ye chema shudra. And then Asau yo vasarpati nilagrivo vilohitaha, which is seen by the ordinary people but not recognized. Why? Because they are just focused on one small thing, missing the whole picture. If you do that, amritatvam hi vindate. So it is important for us to follow the guidelines and do the whole, understand the whole thing, not just one small thing. That is wisdom. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Let me turn off both the audios. I just got the new recorder and we'll see how the two of them compare. And this is the old one and this is the new one. So save. Okay, let's see how that happens. And I also got a Raj Paripatidar was here yesterday, and he connected the microphone to the camera. Hopefully the sound is now a little bit better because the microphone is a lot closer to me. So you have to tell me whether that's any difference or not. I haven't looked at the audio yet. So hopefully that is better. Yes, Maithili, you are absolutely right. That's called the evil eye. So, Krishna Ryan, in the Kannada community, drishti of course means a vision, but I don't know whether it has this connotation of the evil eye, which the nazar is. Nazar is a Urdu word actually, it's not a Hindi word, but it has been accepted as a short version of this evil eye. So I don't know other people have the same name or not. Is mana makes and presumes the form of an object like bicycle in eyes? Is mana close to Atma? So yeah, the manaha is closer than the objects. So the manaha is actually as close to the Atma as it is possible without being the Atma. So the subtlety of the Atma, the subtle expression of the Atma is first in the manaha and then in the various objects. Yes, in that manner it is closest to the Atma, but it is still Anatma. So manaha onwards is all Anatma. And of course it plays the part of assuming the object, the shape of the object. And in that sense, the object actually takes the form of the mind. And it doesn't have to if you are closing your eyes and you are just visualizing things. But if you are opening the eyes and you see something, then the form of that object converts into a thought, and that thought, being very close to the Atma, is immediately transcribed to the Atma. Yeah, something like that happens. Did I miss a question before that? No. Yes, I think Shanti Kumar, you're right. It's नजर करने वालों का मुंह काला. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this is to ward off the evil eye, and may the evil eye person get it back in some fashion, mukala. And so, yeah, that is normally what happens is. But the phenomena is the one I was telling you about. It's not important to do that. But so the phenomena behind the nazar is that if you do that, that inevitably arrests your attention and distracts you from seeing the whole picture. That's the idea. Beautiful. Very nicely done. My explanation by Swami Maheshananji. All right, so I think with that class today, we can close the book on the main subject of the Kenopanishad, and I will complete the remaining part of the Kenopanishad with chapter 3 very quickly in the form of what is called an Akhyayika, which is a story, and the story there also confirms the basis of what we went through up to Pratibodha Viditam Matam. And so it's a beautiful story, well-known story, and I think we will take 1 or 2 classes to complete the story, and then we might as well, say that we have really studied the Kena Upanishad, not word by word, but the essence of it by now, which is the Vedantic insight of Praptasya Prapti. So we can close the book on that. So we will do that next week. Okay. So with that, I close the class, and hopefully I will see you next week. Om.